Hi, I'm Shamne Bairamji, and welcome to Open Frequency. A frequent complaint heard by the older generation is that times are changing fast and that our culture is not what it used to be and things are being westernized. There's an element of truth to this, as our public and private lives are increasingly being influenced by global factors. So our young audience today is going to discuss whether globalization is a good thing, whether it should be continued, and how Pakistan can fit into that bigger picture. But let's first look at the definition of terms when it comes to both culture and globalization. Culture can be defined as the customary beliefs, social forms, and material traits of a racial, religious, or social group. The set of values, conventions, or social practices associated with a particular field, activity, or societal characteristic. The Economist has stated globalization, by definition, is the integration and democratization of the world's culture, economy, and infrastructure through transnational investment, rapid proliferation of communication and information technologies, and the impact of free market on local, regional, and national economies. Are these adequate definitions when it comes down to it?
Why does it have to be democratization? What's that got to do with necessarily globalization? I understand infrastructure, information technology, and whatever that said, but why democratization?
I agree with them. I think rather than democratization, it creates more of a disequilibrium, giving some countries and some people a lot more power over others. Because the people who have the technology and the economic power will no doubt overpower those who don't.
So what does that have to do with democracy?
No, but
democratization.
Isn't the whole point of globalization in order for there to be a balance between the two, that one...
Because free markets cannot really exist without a democracy, or at least that's what people who study economics are led to believe, that you need a democracy for free markets, and for the right of the people has to be, and the will of the people has to be expressed, so that you can actually relax stuff like border control and safety and trade measures, stuff like that.
I don't see like Americans having that much of influence from our culture, whereas we've been completely swamped by United States and other Western
So
cultures.
how can we come to a definition of Pakistani culture?
We can't really, because Pakistan is an amalgam of a lot of cultures. We can't even, let's say, draw the line. Where does our culture start? Indus Valley civilization, Mughal period, post-independence, pre-independence, or is it just an amalgam of the cultures that we have here locally? Yeah. And then there's this whole mix of cultures that's coming from abroad as well. It's kind of a mix. It's kind of something hard to, let's say, reify and
one of the most culturally diverse countries, because we have Sindhis, we have Balochis, Punjabis, and then on top of that we have people who've stayed here from the British times, so you have half British, half Pakistani.
Well, then that's a good point. Given those ethnic mixtures and diversities, isn't globalization a good thing then for us?
Well, you can't exactly term anything as good or bad for a country, because everything does have its advantages and disadvantages. For example, globalization basically, aside from the diversification of culture and the democratized, it's a lot to do with expanding into a global market, right? That's what essentially globalization is, the diminishing of trade barriers in order for a global market to prevail. So for Pakistan, it's good because, see, well, in our country, what we do is we produce a lot of textiles, right? And they're not domestically consumed, most of them, we export them. So if it wasn't for globalization, if it wasn't for the diminishing of trade barriers, we would have a very serious drop in our foreign earnings, because we earn most of our money from our exports. But then on the other hand, we do have, there's so much increase in competition in Pakistan because of the globalization which has occurred nowadays, so we can't deal with most of that because our country is not efficient. That's not one thing we're good at.
Like, I don't think globalization is necessarily bad, having another culture here. But the thing is, like, Western culture is put forward as like inherently better than Eastern culture. And many people fall into that thing that, being Americanized, wearing American clothes, Western clothes, etc., is much better than wearing the shalwar kurta and all. And I think you need to accept that maybe it's different and maybe it has some benefits.
Is even that our Pakistani culture? Is wearing a shalwar kameez Pakistani culture?
Yeah,
or is
it
that
is. It's a part of who we are. I mean, shalwar is our national dress. It's part of our culture.
Shalwar kameez was not part of the culture in 1947. At
but
all.
Now it
was
is,
the
right?
Western culture.
But
it was
but now it is. Now it is.
Not.
Pakistani culture is shalwar kameez, and yes, we are making
but
a
now
more
it is. I mean, the whole point is is Pakistani culture always adapting?
In 40 years.
It's not adapting. We do have a pretty rigid culture as well. There's some traditions which we just refuse to let go of because we're not that.
Such as?
Like
It's the strong family system that we have, where the older family members hold on to their children and their children.
Is that still as rigid nowadays as it was
Yes.
before?
Yeah, I mean, we do have some traditions which we refuse
But
to let
again,
go of.
coming to globalization, you have a choice. From the economic point of view, yeah, it's good, you need competition. But from the cultural point of view, there's an invasion that we've chosen. We're only copying America. How about the German people? We're not seeing them. So if Russia was the global power, wouldn't we be copying them instead of US?
No, but the thing is that there's really not any defined American culture for us to copy. The US doesn't have a culture. We have
Hold on.
actually.
Let's look at the things as a nation state in terms of Pakistan as a nation state, and with all the different indigenous groups that our country has. I mean, can we put all of this diversity together and call it a nation and make that one culture?
I mean,
We've been doing this for past
we've been
50
doing
years.
Globalization means the dissolving of borders, right? But we've been trying so hard. I mean, 1947 was all about making a Muslim nation state, and that didn't work because in 71, on the lines of ethnicity, we separated again. And these divisions are going to keep happening, so why not just make smaller little blocks?
Humans are very territorial, like any other creature. This thing will happen in any other US state or Russian state or Indian state.
But the EU has moved away, and considering the history of the EU and the amount of wars they fought amongst each other, I mean, they were able to make a European Union. Why can't we make like a subcontinental association or a Middle
Even
Eastern?
there are certain flaws in the European Union as well. I mean, like the biggest service exporter right now is England, and they're not part of the European Union. They refuse to give up the pound, so they too all have that dissension within their ranks. So the European Union is not perfect, and in the same way, Pakistan and India will not get like our relationship is just starting to get better with our trade opening up to each other. But if you're gonna say that we should start a South Asian Union and we should all band together, that's taking a lot of steps at the same time.
And that would be far too unevenly balanced because India is on a level like far beyond Pakistan right now, right?
Is the
basis of our nation. Let's say we had a basis of our nation in 1947, but the question then becomes: is the basis of our nation obsolete, or is it less important today? Are we still standing on the same grounds?
Where's the nation's vision?
No, but that's like moving back to the EU point, the thing people don't realize is that Europe has been fighting wars for hundreds of years. Ever since Napoleon, they've been trying to create some sort of nationhood, some sort of amalgamation of nation states. It's only recently that it's being proven successful. So obviously,
but have you realized that everything we are doing is actually contrary? We're actually trying to break it up and split it apart.
Exactly, in the same way that Europe's always been trying to get together, we've always been trying to move far from each other. Our entire history is indicative of the fact that we don't want to get along.
It's a great point, but unfortunately we need to take a break right now and we'll be right back.